Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the CCN News Media On Point with National Sex Education, or how sex is being taught in our schools nationally and specifically here in Illinois. Today I was on the West Side. On Wednesdays, I work with the Exodus Institute, and they do a show where they invite community residents, local businesses, young people, residents to come in and talk about things that are important to them. And today's discussion was on, one of today's discussions was on a book called It's Perfectly Normal. Has anybody heard of that book?
Heard a lot of rumors about the information in the book. I'm not certain that you are sourcing the actual the same information that I've heard, but I have heard some downright outrageous, quite unnecessary information being distributed to youth in public education by office, by way of the governor's office. And even about there was a newspaper that was distributed by the other side, the Republican side, some of it, with sort of half truths, but they were talking about some of the things in the book. But I don't want to get ahead of you, Wanda. So
I'm Michael Hitchborn, and you're watching the American Life League Report. It's found in adult bookstores, video rentals, and sealed in black plastic bags. But the last place parents would expect to find pornography is in the hands of their 10-year-old child. Endorsed by Planned Parenthood, the book It's Perfectly Normal has a label on its front cover stating that it is for ages 10 and up. However, a Washington state jail recently rejected a fundraising letter featuring censored illustrations from the book because they are obscene or sexually explicit material as defined by policy. The content rejected by the prison was described by Planned Parenthood Vice President Michael McGee as delightful, while calling the book itself a boon for kids, their parents, and their teachers. The question is, if these images are too obscene for adult prisoners, why are they good for 10-year-old children? It's Perfectly Normal by Roby Harris has entire chapters devoted to sexual intercourse, contraception, masturbation, homosexuality, and abortion. Page 15 of the book explains that sexual intercourse, or having sex, can involve the penis and the vagina, or the mouth and the genitals, or the penis and the anus. Nowhere does the book describe the virtue of chastity, and in fact on page 48, Harris attacks the religious belief that masturbation is morally wrong by saying, some religions claim that masturbation is a sin, but masturbation cannot hurt you. She then provides illustrations of a young boy and a young girl masturbating with an accompanying how-to explanation. While the book is not a publication of Planned Parenthood, it is intimately connected with the nation's largest abortion chain. The author was on Planned Parenthood's National Board of Advocates, and at least 7 other members of Planned Parenthood were involved in the creation of the book. In addition to being endorsed on Planned Parenthood Federation of America's website, free copies of the book are distributed to children in grades 7 through 9 at their annual sex party in Waco, Texas. In several states, the contents of It's Perfectly Normal fall directly under the definition of pornography, and in some cases, child pornography. As Joanne Carcos of Lewiston, Maine recently said, after refusing to return the book to a public library, hopefully this will harness enough people to be sufficiently horrified and want to speak out, to say that it's gone too far. Indeed, Planned Parenthood has gone too far and should be charged with the distribution of pornography to minors. For American Life League, I'm Michael Hitchborn.
Explaining about the anus, interestingly enough, because I really do want our listeners to hear this. This is important stuff. The anus of supposedly what's being taught is a sexual organ for a man, but not for a woman.
Well, it ain't no sex organ at all. Let's get real.
An arm could be used one way for a woman or for a man. It's absurdity. It's absurd that they allowed to be. How is it that the ear is any different on a man or a woman? So how is it that you can describe that the anus for the man is something different? It's actually wrong, and we know that it's wrong. But continue, Wanda.
So this educator discussed how when the state or the city, whomever, came in and eliminated all the schools in the Black community, she said that there were so many hundred of African American teachers that were let go. And she was one of those. She was a special ed teacher. And she said that she thought it was outrageous that they would allow this kind of education at the level, at the age that they're doing it. They referenced that Obama had said when he was in office that it was age appropriate education on sex was okay, age appropriate, okay, but showing a 5-year-old someone bent over in their anus and explaining you know, all the geographic, all of the physical areas they're explaining, showing. So maybe that might be necessary because so many children today are being sexually abused, and they don't know that when someone says, let me show you, let me touch you there, or let me penetrate you, and if you tell I'm gonna kill your family, maybe kids need to know for that reason what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. But I have mixed feelings about whether that should be taught to a 5-year-old. But then I think about my grandchildren my great-grandchildren that one is 5 and one is 3. And, you know, the things that they have said to me about their bodies, you know, they're inquisitive. They want to know. So is it appropriate? Was the discussion today. But this teacher thought that it was very inappropriate. And so what say you?
Well, yeah, you know, at some point, for one thing, that's not sex education. That's what I would call risque propaganda.
Yeah, they said this was pornography. That's what the teacher said. This was pornography.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. And you know, from what I can see, what is happening is you have an authority. Well, they're using the politicians because there's got to be sources behind promoting this agenda. What they're doing effectively is usurping the home instruction. You know, because that's something that you need to get out of home. That's what my mama taught me about, you know, the do's and don'ts, and don't let people do that to you. When I was old enough to go to a bathroom on my own, you know,
right.
At home,
right.
You know, going to, you know, kindergarten and all that. She taught me about that. I remember as a child, and I followed everything like Mama told me. And so what you have is you got an entity behind the scenes using politicians and education, system to usurp the home training that's supposed to come from out of the home.
And the teacher said very vividly that today they are taking Black children and teaching them that it's okay to sex your dog or your cat. It's okay
who said this?
This educator was saying that the government is basically teaching our children, teaching the boys that it's okay to be transgender.
And that you were explaining that they are including relationships with animals as well in the curriculum.
Right. That's what the lady said, and I was like, oh,
Now, where is this documentation at? Because that's illegal.
Just did a show today. I just did a show today. What's against law?
I forgot what you call that. Having sex with animals, that's against the law.
The Comprehensive Sex Act. Right now, they have fired 14,000 black teachers from the Chicago public school system. In order to implement this perverse, this pedophilia, this child grooming, they had to remove the heartbeat of the school system, which are the black teachers. Now the governor, Pritzker, and others like him, I think they said the entire Democratic Party voted for this. That's why I'm concerned with the president, the mayoral candidates who are coming forth now. And we have to be very careful. I think both of them may be saying they may not, I don't know what they're saying. But we have to watch the people we vote for, because if you vote for these people who are for this, you are just as bad as them. And also, I'm coming against the abortion, where 1,100 black babies are murdered every day through abortion. It's genocide. And when you have candidates who is pushing that, then you have a person who's pushing the genocide of your race. So in conclusion, I'd just like to also say that we have to be careful as we watch the television.
You're not on television, right?
Yes.
Not on television.
Oh yes, the television. If you go back and you study Hitler, Hitler went after the children for his government. The ones who put him in office were the ones that he groomed. The ones who fought the war were the children he groomed and drugged. And that's what's happening right now. We have the forces now giving our children a link card and telling them, I'm your new daddy. They're telling them in the curriculum, we're giving you condoms. We're going to take you to have these operations, these transgender operations. You do not have to tell your parent. Do not tell them. When they come to school, I'm hearing they're asking them, what is your gender? Who do you want to be today? Whoever you are, that's cool. We will not tell your parent. This is our secret, just ours in school. So they're no longer educating our children. They are transgendering them, and we have got to stand up as a people.
But let's try to sort of, I think we should try to, this is an important subject. Let's try to get one thing out first, in terms of that education being taught, sexuality being taught to children versus reproduction. What is a part of the school system? Because all humans reproduce, all animals reproduce. There was a line of thinking where reproduction being taught in the schools in terms of the ovaries and the males and females, how it is that procreation happens is one thing. But for you to teach sexuality, as he says, and to usurp what it is that I am doing in my home is a different barn, it's a different house, it's a different paint, it's a different thing, it's a different world. And furthermore, you will not find this same curricula in private education. So it just what he spoke about. It is, in fact,
Voices in and out. Voices in and out, Jerry.
All I can tell you is that that's probably no.
Huh?
That's probably intentional because of what we're talking about.
Oh, you're probably right. Yep. You know what? Because I have issues with my system all the time. So it might be. It might exactly be. It might exactly be. I just want you to know that I can hear every other word.
Okay, that is not normal, and you know that.
Yes. So, today has been a really, really, really interesting day, the subject matter. And you're right, Jerry. Probably because of the topic. So this lady wants to start a movement to ban this kind of education, and she says it's time for us as a people to stand up and say, you're not going to take our children and cause them, just take them away with all of this miseducation and pornography.
I have a group of people that are already talking about that for a very long time. This is time for us to do it. This time.
That's what she's saying. Yeah. She said we can't stand by and be silent anymore. That we have to step up and say, no, that's enough. No more. There's some things we just not gonna take no more.
Yeah, but about this again, that the governor, I mean, he's not, I mean, he doesn't have the executive edict to order such so-called curriculum. It ain't such education, and it sure as hell ain't curriculum. That's not the way I define it. He doesn't have executive order. He to lay down rules to force anybody to. He has some complicity by people down there in the General Assembly, and there's higher education. I mean, not higher, just colleges. There's a education committee, in both the state and the Senate and in the General Assembly. So there's complicity, in both chambers, in chambers between the there's some complicity there in chambers, with the parties, Republican, Democrat, and then you got and so the question is what entity is behind lobbying, and I've brought this up before, this type of educational policy, and rules, being passed, so that's where you got to get it from. See, where is they getting that from? He ain't just up there waking up one day and say, well, we gonna do transgender today. We reading out the cartoon someplace, So that's where you got to go and nip it in the bud. See,
he ain't just saying it's not just him, huh?
No. There's some precursors.
Well, but I'm saying that I don't know if identification of that will really. I'm not denying that it it would be helpful, but I believe that on our end, in terms of once that they are curriculum that we are in, I'm not denying that we need to look into that, but I think that on our end we need to develop our own movement where you are not going to teach, you are not going to usurp my house, you're not going to teach my children about sex, period. You can't teach them,
yes.
You can teach them a general information about how humans and how animals and how the world works. But in terms of sex, that is something that you can't do outside. And I'm not comfortable talking about it outside. That is something between two people. Why does that need to be something that is addressed in a general classroom? Why do we need to talk about sex in a group at all?
Yes. I agree.
And see that too, and another thing to add to what you're saying, for one thing, is a child at that age at the
I know what you mean. Like they don't even understand it.
They're not prepared psychologically, mentally. They don't have the worldly experience to be able to process that type of information.
So that's you're right.
At this point, and so no, and there has to be studies, and you have to go make reference to existence. So that's the way you got to deal with it in this situation. And you have to go to studies, where are these children at, against the information that is being given to them, and come up with, there's a disparity here. See, there's a misalignment going on here. They're not prepared for this sort of thing. So now that we know this, because the facts, speak for themselves on studies, they're not ready. So what you're doing is you're socially conditioning and programming people.
That's exactly what the lady said. They're being programmed and conditioned and trained, because the United States is the number one, she said, trafficker. So they're getting them ready for wherever they're taking them to.
Well, they want more sexual availability in our African American community. They want to, as they did in terms of creating a certain amount of a drug addicted people in the community. That was an intentional act done,
right? Yes,
by the government. They are trying to increase the level of sexual deviancy, because they know, as he talks about, there are plenty of studies that talk about where it is you go when you're more sexually available. They are looking, we know, what is the end game of sexual availability, really? What is the end?
Yeah. Trafficking. She said we're the number one trafficker. I was like, oh my God. And we showing all this stuff about how these children are being trafficked other places, and we're doing it. Yeah.
But also, LaWanda, would you also say, when you are talking about a thing, this it's sort of like when you talk about these shooters all the time. All studies, I'm a researcher, will tell you that the more what you see is what you increase. What you talk about is what you increase. The more you talk about sex to a child, the more you are inviting that child to think about sex or to think about murder.
Without question. Effectively what you do is, when you continue to bombard people with a subject matter, you desensitize them. Their when you say desensitize, I mean we have a corpus and a base of principles and value system, and what you effectively do is you minimize that. Okay, so where are the boundaries now? We don't have no boundaries that we can move around in, and so that opens up the door for additional programming. Like I said, this to me, and this is part and parcel to a subject that people don't like me discussing, and I'm going to say the LGBT movement and all that, they ain't nothing but a front for racism. See, that's a front for racism, and you see it specifically being played out on the college campuses. I'm over here at Northwestern in a graduate program on a fellowship, and they got it all up in there. It's a front for racism, and see, they use a subset of the white population, okay, who is, i.e., white, and they're honorary white people, they Oriental or Asians, Indians, whatever. And, they use a subset of the white population. And then what they do is they overglorify it and magnify it as if that is the majority, for the exclusive purposes of trying to influence a number of people of color, i.e. Black, as they can, because they're the dominant culture and set all of the standards on moral values and that sort of thing. And so that's where they're going with this. And so they can use LGBT to malign and marginalize movements. We saw the Black Lives Matter movement being done in that way by LGBT organizations. Are people still with me?
Yes.
Okay, my phone fell out. And so I'm sorry about that. And so again, you've heard me discuss this, Wanda, where I've gone. This LGBT and all this, this is a front for racism. And that is essentially what it is, because what they're doing is that they're appealing to a more basal instinct. We have ties and relationships based on culture, race, in social affiliations. But when you appeal to a basal instinct, which is one sex drive, and we know that is one of the most primitive areas of the brain, you've effectively have gotten under a person's skin, and you're appealing to the most
basic human
so,
instinct.
yeah, which is one
It's
sex drive.
all manipulation. It's all manipulation.
In all.
Yes, Jerry. I'm Luanza. Oh boy, yes. Come on.
In your choir, the LGBT, the Q, that group is definitely here to in fact bring about racism and to change the conversation. It's a distraction from the capitalism that we see that is actually the problem in the African American community, to change the subject and to dominate the mind, as you say, using something as primal as sex.
All right, welcome to the show, Jerome Altman. We're talking about the sex education being taught in our schools today that our governor okayed and put into law, that is a part of the national educational system. What say you about the discussion on sex education? You were there today when the young lady, the educator, told us about how this book, It's Perfectly Normal, is now being introduced in our schools to 5-year-olds. What say you, Jerome?
Well, I just like to say I know I taught for 10 years and I could never I don't know, I don't really understand it, and I think that it's a fight that we have to participate in, because I mean I don't see it making any type of sense. So whatever reason that he's come up with that we should do that, I think we have to fight that to the end. That's my thought on it. You know, because that's I don't know where he's trying to go with that. So I'm in for the fight. That's the only thing I can say about it.
Let's look at what your governor has to say about why he did that.
Governor Pritzker also signed a pair of laws that update sex education standards in Illinois schools. The first adds new, what are considered age-appropriate topics for kindergarten through 12th grade students. Younger kids would learn about things like personal safety. Older students would cover healthy relationships, body image, and sexual orientation. A second bill requires students learn about sexting and the potential risks and consequences. These changes only apply to districts that teach sex ed. Parents can also opt their students out of the classes.